Hey guys, I am excited to tell you a little bit about the episode we're going to be presenting in the next 10 seconds. It's for jewelry shopping. It's for actually buying engagement rings, high anxiety purchase. And there are a couple of nuggets that you need to actually sit and listen to discover. So one of them is Lorenzo talks about how to kind of identify the different funnels and figure out like how those funnels work. He also talks about that something that I think is really important is how to actually make the benefits more prominent, higher on the page. And then one of the other ideas we talk about is how to identify anxiety of the shopper. So stick around, watch that episode. It starts now. Hey guys, welcome to yet another episode. And in this episode, we're going to actually talk about a jewelry website called Brilliant Earth. And they have lots of different types of jewelry, but we are specifically looking at buying an engagement ring. And we're looking at a very specific type of, I guess, one specific funnel that they have. So what they have essentially is a three-step process. You got to find your setting first, which I discovered after setting this page is the ring part. And then you find the diamond, which is this part over here. And then you can complete I guess you can complete the ring. So I'm going to talk about Lorenzo, is there anything I've missed so far?
No, it's good.
Okay. So the layout of the page, they have the ring over here. They have lots of alternate views, which is super important because they're trying to essentially compete against a retail store experience. So you want to make it as immersive as is possible. You can even adjust your skin tone over here. Then they have the name of the ring, and they have this little promo that they're running where you get $1,000 or you get a pearl necklace if you are trying to spend $1,000. Now, I don't know right now how much I'm going to spend because it's $490 is just the cost of the setting. So maybe I'll cross 1,000, maybe I won't. And then there's a choose setting. If you click on choose setting, it actually takes you to step 2 of the process where you choose your diamond. And we won't go through that whole process, but that's the process. And then you can drop a hint, an email, and stuff like that. And then they have these recommended options here as well. And then they have the ring details. It's a pretty standard thing. Lorenzo, have I covered everything?
Yep. Let's get into
it. So I will let you maybe share your screen. I'll stop sharing my screen.
Yeah, sounds good. All right. So I want to talk about the first thing. So let's say that these guys tomorrow decide to hire me, and I want to talk about a few things that I would be doing if I had access to their data. So first of all, I want to show how to find conversion drop-offs for all the funnels. So in this example, we have this website in particular has one funnel online, right? Which is basically like what I call with funnel number 1 is going through these 3 steps. So choosing the setting, choosing the diamond, and complete the ring, which is the step where they actually have to decide and pick the right size for the ring. So that's one. So I would want to understand where people are getting stuck in these 3 steps, because they're super, super important in the whole on-site funnel. And I would actually also run some exit polls, which are simply some survey that you can display with a tool like Hotjar straight on the website. And with that, I would want to understand why they're getting stuck at each step, right? So I have some qualitative data that tells me what's happening in each step of the funnel.
So just to be clear, you would set up these exit polls in the setting stage on these actual URLs, correct?
Correct.
Choose diamond, complete ring. And then if someone is exiting from there, you'll show a little prompt that says, before you leave, we have a couple of questions.
Yeah, you can. So on desktop, I would display the exit poll on exit intent. So as soon as the user is about to exit. On mobile, unfortunately, we can't really do it because there's no exit intent. So I'll probably use it like timed. So for example, after the user has been on this page for X minutes or seconds, I would just want this little widget to show up. And that gives me, so now I have two different perspectives. I have the quantitative perspective by looking at the funnel drop-off in analytics of these 3 steps. And then I have the qualitative aspect of it through this pulse. So now I know what's happening and why it's happening. Now, so that's for the funnel on the site. But these guys also have a lot of other funnels, and I want to talk a little bit about it. So, so first of all, if we look at like the main kind of like CTAs/goals that these guys have, they have a lot. You can buy the product right away, so you land on the site that you can buy. You can chat with one of the chat agents. You can't really see the logo here at the moment because I'm all zoomed in, but it's here on the right side. You can email them. So if we scroll down, there's a kind of like a call to action here where you can email them. You can call them. So again, you can just press this button and call them if you're on mobile. You can book a virtual appointment. So if we scroll all the way down here, there is this section where they have a virtual appointment, where you can basically have a call through Zoom with one of their consultants, and they can show you basically like through camera what the diamond looks like and what the setting looks like and so on, and a bunch of other options. But also have a physical location in a bunch of cities throughout the United States. I think it's around 20 locations throughout the US. And then finally, they have a try it now option where you can actually upload the photo of your hand and you can see how your hand looks like with the ring on, right? So these are all kind of like goals and CTAs that are happening on the site. Now, what I would want to do is, and again, because this is like this business in particular has a lot of different funnels, what I would want to do is I would want to map out all the different funnels that visitors are going through. So for example, I put here, 5 examples. Example number 1 is people that have bought the website without visiting the store. So they literally have landed on the site and they were so compelled and so convinced about the content on the site that they just went ahead and bought the ring without any of these interactions.
I should stop you for a second, and can you talk, because I think it's a very interesting segment. Can you talk a little bit about, in your mind as a thought experiment, what is the difference? What is special about someone who actually bought online without interacting with any of these other alternative call to actions?
Well, that tells, like, there's a lot of like, thoughts that that I have around why they've done it, right? Maybe they're coming from referral traffic, maybe because their sister or one of her friends recommended to go there, and they've seen the beauty of the ring, and they said, okay, fantastic, I trust this brand because my sister bought the engagement ring right there as well. Or maybe they've done a lot of research on other kind of on Google and YouTube, and through the research they discovered that Brilliant Earth was the right option, right? So there's a lot of what I would do is, this is actually interesting, I would actually try to understand as much as possible of who these people are, because when you try to understand these people, because of different reasons, right? This is people that they had potentially the lowest number of anxieties, but we don't know why, right? One hypothesis could be because they got referred, another hypothesis because they had done a lot of research and they compared this brand with others and they figure out that they're the best. So yeah, did I answer?
Okay, yeah, no, absolutely, yeah.
The other example of a funnel is somebody that called the customer support, and after the call, they went ahead and bought the ring. The other two I thought about was somebody that called to book an appointment in the store, because the question here is how many people call and book an appointment, and how many people call and do not book an appointment, right? These are already two different funnels. And I would want to do they make an appointment every time they call? And if not, why not? And then finally, the people that have chatted with a rep through the live chat widget, and then they bought, right? Again, I would want to map out, this is just for examples, but I would want to try to understand all the different funnels and try to map out from the beginning to the end, all the different drop-offs. So now you have an opportunity to actually say, okay, here are the top 2-3 funnels when it comes to traffic, for example. Let's go and figure out how to tackle those drop-offs and understand a little bit more why people are dropping off.
Yeah, it's really good. Yeah. And so are you suggesting that the group that you would go after first in terms of understanding is number one, or is it just 4 ideas?
No, this is just like 4 examples of funnel that I would look at. Again, as we can see, there's a lot of different kind of goals and call to actions here.
Yeah.
But what I want to do is I would map out all the different funnels that are present, and then I would start tackling the 2-3 most important ones. And when I talk about most important ones, I'm referring to traffic. So the ones that have the highest amount of people going through it, and probably also like the easiest to understand, right? So for example, if you don't have data connected between your CRM and the tried on app, for example, you just don't analyze that one.
Great. Yeah. I think this is really important because, you know, I think if you, by understanding the funnels that people are using, you're able to surgically kind of go after those opportunities versus just looking at what's the overall revenue I'm driving through this interface.
Yeah, I would say, you know, to take it to even like a higher level here, I'm not suggesting people to do it, but what you would want to do now is also like, okay, now we found out that, you know, 90% of the people land on the site and you know, book a virtual appointment, and those that book a virtual appointment then end up buying like a high percentage of that. Now, you know, based on your company, the decisions, the cost, and so on, you have to make a choice. Do we have an opportunity to push that virtual appointment more? Or do we want to prioritize the whole like self-service kind of like funnel where they don't talk to like any human being, just because it's easier to scale, right? So at the end of the day, a lot of these kind of like hypotheses that you will have to come up with to improve different funnels really depend on your business and even like the cost and the P&L, right?
Yeah, wonderful.
Cool. Do you want to talk about, no, should I talk about the other?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, finish
Okay, fantastic. So I want to talk about some of the benefits that they have here on the page. So if I scroll down, there's a section here just below the email and call, where they talk about, you know, the fact that they have free shipping and free 30-day returns. Then there's another section here with shipping and financing, where they talk about the free FedEx shipping, the return again, and then the professional appraisal, the fact that they have a free lifetime warranty, and the fact that there is like a certified wood box that the product comes with. And I believe there is, no, it's actually towards the bottom. Then they talk about this beyond conflict free and the cycled precious metals and the giving back. Now, if you look at a lot of these benefits are unfortunately hidden in a dropdown. And, my hypothesis here is that a lot of people don't really click on these dropdowns. So what happens is that if you don't click on them, you don't see them, right? So there's a lost opportunity here to basically like show off your all these like different benefits. And to kind of like repeat myself here a little bit is free shipping on both ways, free 30 days returns, free lifetime warranty, free lifetime diamond upgrade. So these are all like goodies, right, that the customer gets when visiting the site, but I would make these guys much more prominent so more people would see it. Now, I want to kind of like analyze few things around this benefit. So one thing that I did, I've gone into this tool called Ahrefs, which is basically an SEO tool that gives you some data, some concrete data around how popular a keyword is. And people are looking for their return policy. So they literally go on Google and type in Brilliant Earth return policy. We were seeing like 600 people on a monthly base. And, this data coming from Ahrefs is not accurate, but at least we have a kind of like understanding a little bit. And there's also like people looking for Brilliant Earth warranty, like literally going into Google and typing in that phrase. Now, one thing that I also want to show is they have a section where they actually talk about the fact that they have 60 days free resizing. So let's say that you have made a mistake and you bought the engagement ring for your fiance in the wrong size. So, because obviously you're not going to ask your fiance what the size of the ring she has, because you want to surprise her with the engagement ring. So now they have that 60 days resizing opportunity where if I give you today, Rishi, my engagement ring, Rishi has 60 days to actually go in the store or figure out the size of the finger and get the ring resized, right?
Lorenzo, do me a favor. Go back to that. Open that live site that you have on the right tab. Yeah, if you just scroll up to the ring size, go up right up. Yeah, where's the size? Where do you select? Is that on the next page? The next step? Where you select size?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So this is exactly my point around this. So this is another goodiness that they have, right? The fact that you get free resize. But the problem is that they only have information around sizing on the third step. And my point here is, well, how many people are actually getting to this third step? Because, if we look at the funnel, there's always like more people at the top and less people at the bottom. And since this is step one, my hypothesis is that there's more people here and less people here. Now, if we go into my reviews mining document, when I analyzed all the different reviews that people left on the product page of this ring in particular, there were around 30% of people said that they had some concerns before buying. They had some concerns around the size of the ring. They were not sure about what size of the ring they should pick. So my point here is, let's talk about the fact that you can resize your ring for free after 60 days from when you bought it. And let's give some kind of like content, which they do have. They have this amazing page all dedicated to sizing, where they even have, you can even request a ring sizer for free that will ship it to you in case you and your fiance both, you don't want to surprise your fiance and you both agree that you're going to get married. Now they have this sizer which you can give to your fiance. She can kind of like size her finger, and then you can ship it back to them, and you can pick and choose the right diamond. But my point is, let's talk about this whole anxiety that people have as I have showed in my reviews mining earlier in the funnel on this first step where they need to choose the setting.
Yeah, and I think this is, I almost feel like I don't know what the breakup is between people that are buying the ring for themselves versus people who are buying the ring for their fiance. And I have no knowledge about this, but if I'm a guy, I know from my perspective, if I'm a guy and I'm buying a ring for my fiance, I'm pretty clueless. And so I wondered if there was a method for me. So the first thing I would want to do is, like, first of all, identify these dudes who don't know how to
Yep.
buy a ring. And then kind of just tell them upfront in very simple terms, like, you have nothing to worry about because, here are the return policies and all that. But I would actually like put together a video specifically for that group, because our biggest competitor is actually the fact that I can walk into a jewelry store and I can talk to a sales associate. And so, I like the virtual appointment idea, but even that is a commitment. I feel like a video is the least committed way for me to actually understand what your brand is all about. And for someone to actually say that, especially if I raise my hand up and say I'm a guy buying a ring for a fiance and I've never bought a ring online, if the video actually specifically talks about that, that's, makes me connect with that content. I think it's very persuasive. So anyway.
Yeah, the other thing I wanted to mention here, which I thought it was very interesting, they have an entire, let's see if I find it. I think it was on this page. Yeah, so they have this section where if you're aiming for a surprise, read our tips about how to measure ring size for surprise proposal. So that's actually super interesting because now you have a bunch of ideas, and I've gone through this post, but now you have a bunch of ideas about how figuring out your fiance's finger size without asking her, because obviously asking her means, oh, this guy's gonna propose to me, right? And I thought it was very interesting. One of the things is like, oh, go in the jewelry section where she keeps all her like other rings and so on, and see if there's any indication about sizing. I thought it was very interesting.
I like that a lot. That's a great idea.
Cool.
It's a great idea. All right, let me.
Do you want to talk about
Is there
your
more?
stuff?
Is there more?
No, that's it.
Okay. I'm just going to share my screen real quick. All right. So I'm going to talk about 3 ideas. I'm going to breeze through them very quickly, but the basic thinking framework here is that the consumer is not ready to buy an engagement ring from a website that they've never, because remember, this is the unfortunate part about buying engagement rings is you just hopefully, if you're lucky, you do it just once. So they're not they're not coming to Brilliant Earth every month, right? It's not that kind of a brand. So that means that the thing that I really care about is, like, do I trust Brilliant Earth? And so the first thing I want to do is I want to get the shopper to know us. I don't think it's possible to persuade them about how amazing our rings are until they've actually been comfortable with us. But here's the other thing: is there are 2 objectives here. The other objective is to actually get a user to want to spend more time on this page. And the reason I say that is because this is actually what we are showing you step 1. It's actually very complicated. When you go to step 2, they show you all different kinds of diamonds and different sizes and different quality, and it's really complicated. And so here's what I know is that without looking at the data, I know this, that people that spend more time on those 3 pages have a higher conversion rate than people that spend less time on those 3 pages. So having said all of that, how would I actually solve this? So what I've done in my concept is at strategic locations, this is not the default image. This is the default image on this page. So I've added this, like, the CSS element. It says it's not the same thing. So I'm not saying this is the best design, and I would have to obviously figure out a more subtle way of doing this. But the idea here is I know people are looking at this image, obviously. So therefore, this is a nice location to have this. And it's vague enough where people are like, what do they mean by this? And that's one location. but I've also shown it over here above the choose settings. I've added, it says how we're different. I'm using different language for the same call to action because different people respond to different messages, different types of messages. And what we've done is, if you click on this, then we actually make this one invisible. So it's not being shown to people repeatedly. It's only going to be shown for the first time. But if you click on this, we will show a modal, which is like a full screen pop-up. And in that modal, we will repeat that call to action. So over here, if it says how we're different, it'll say how we're different. If you click over here, the headline will say it's not the same thing. So it's a trail, it's a confirmation for the reader that they're in the right location. And what I'm going to do here is, the benefit of the modal is I have now completely bypassed the design limitations of the page, because now I'm showing an overlay, like a blank canvas on top of the page. And I can now just show simple copy. And what I've done here is I'm going to cover these topics: how ring buying has changed, because our biggest competitor is not Blue Nile or other online diamond retailers. Our biggest competitor is the fact that the person knows that, and they probably have already gone to a few retail stores, because local retail stores, right? So I want to talk about how ring buying has changed to give them a confirmation that buying online actually makes sense. Then I'm going to talk about how online buying is better. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about how Brilliant Earth, through trial and error, has cracked the difficult aspect of online ring shopping, has the online ring shopping puzzle. And the reason I want to do this is because I have two options here. I can either say that, we are better than everyone else. And I think that actually can backfire a lot of times, because people don't like to hear that. So I think a better approach is to actually talk about, like, this is actually not a simple problem, and we really worked hard and we actually failed, and then we eventually solved it. That automatically implies that a lot of other brands may not have solved it. And so I really like to kind of communicate this, because this also then distinguishes Brilliant Earth from even buying from a retail store. Then what I want to do here is I want to give one of the challenges that I had when I was studying this page was, I felt a lot of like overwhelm. There were too many choices. There are all these like different things to consider. There are all these like things that are details that I'm not aware of. So I want to, in that modal itself, Lorenzo, is it clear that it's a pop-up? It's like over the screen. Like, I want to make sure I'm communicating this.
Yep. No.
Okay.
Yes.
In the modal itself, I want to actually have a talk about like the 4 most important aspects. And it could be something like, looking at these alternate images, or whatever the brand decides are like the most important aspects that people need to do to actually buy the right ring. And then finally, I would have a priming statement. So what I've done over here is, the copy says, we've helped thousands of people know what we've learned. 86% of visitors, and I made up this number, 86%, we'd have to look at their data to figure it out, but 86% of visitors who spend 12 minutes exploring these steps end up finding the perfect ring. We hope you're able to give us 12 minutes of your time today. And then below that, there's a button that says resume search. So the whole idea here is I'm basically kind of just letting the user know that please spend 12 minutes, because I know on the back end that if they spend more time, they probably will find something that is of value. So that's my first idea, which is to essentially help them understand how we are different and what makes us special, because I don't think we can sell them on our products before we do that. The second idea that I have is that I want to understand what are the most important aspects or the most important assets in the funnel itself. This is kind of similar to what Lorenzo was talking about as well. So I would kind of I would either look at analytics data, or I would actually ask the client. But like, one of the things that I think will be very important is people looking at these alternate images. And the reason why I think this is important is because we are competing against a retail store, and people in a retail store can actually look at a ring and kind of see the 3-dimensional view. So what I would do is, assuming that that's an important critical asset. I don't know what's the critical asset. We'll have to figure that out. But assuming that this is a critical asset, as the person is lower on the page, and if they've not gone through these different views, I would actually put a secondary prompt lower on the page, reminding them to go through those views. Because it's really important for me that the most important assets are consumed. And so that's my second idea, is that I want to add a marker so I know what those assets are. And my
Yeah,
third idea, go ahead.
sorry, I'm gonna interrupt you because I think you know what I want, the way I want to explain it is, don't be afraid to repeat content, images, text, whatever, that you know based on like data or experimentation has a strong impact in the decision making of the user.
That's right.
So that is not just valid for within the same page, but that's also valid throughout the entire customer journey. So if customers care about X, don't just have X on the product page, but you can have it even like in another kind of like a section of the website, which the user might have to make some decisions, which is like the cart of the checkout, right?
Yep.
Because memory span is very short. And also the other reason is they might have missed that element on a previous page, and now they don't miss it, or hopefully they will not miss it on the page. I actually would even suggest to take that even outside the website, right? So applying the same concept to, can you apply that to an ad? Can you apply that to your email marketing campaign? Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. And my idea was essentially like those critical assets are not going to be just repeated on this step itself. If you miss a critical asset in step 1 and you go to step 2, I would actually repeat it in step 2, because I know that until I don't overcome that piece, the probability of converting is still pretty low. And my third idea, which is critically important, of course, is understanding anxiety. Because the thing is that they're like, at the end of the day, the most prize shopper for me is someone who can afford this ring and is feeling anxiety. Because someone who can afford this ring and is not feeling anxiety is already buying. Someone who can't afford this ring is of no use to me, because of course they can't afford it. But someone who's can afford it but is feeling anxiety is super important to me. And the thing is that, anxiety, you can pick up on anxiety based on people's behavior. So I want to just give you some examples of how I would track for anxiety. So this is actually in step 2. They actually have it in step 1 as well.
Can you zoom in a little bit
Yeah.
into that element? Because I can't really see it very well.
Yeah. Sorry.
Even more. 200%.
Okay, I just zoom in. Yeah. So basically on step 2, they had this 300. Once you've selected your setting and then your ring, they have a 360-degree view. And when you click on it, it actually does a rotation of the ring, which is super persuasive. But imagine a scenario where I come to the page, I click on this, and then I go lower on the page, and then I come back up and I click on it again. So I've clicked on it twice in that same session. That could, I'm just making this up, that could be an indication that there is some anxiety that I'm feeling. Like, why would I watch the video twice, right? That's one example. But I could also, you can, let me just zoom back out just a second. My point is that there are multiple things that the shopper could be doing that could indicate anxiety for the brand. Another thing could also be that they are spending, let's say that we find that people typically spend 4 minutes on step 1. And we find that this particular shopper is active on this page. We know they're active because they're moving up and down, but they've actually been on this page for 7 minutes. That's a strong indicator that they're obviously engaged because they're going up and down. They're not passive, but that they're stuck somehow. So if we can identify these anxieties, so then what we can do is we can say, okay, what content can we show them? I didn't put together over here the content that I would show them, but I guess my biggest point over here is, as a brand, is if I can segment out people that are experiencing anxiety, then I can figure out a strategy for what content would be relevant for those people so we can address that anxiety. That was my idea.
Cool. I love it. This is like one thing that I want to remember people, like, lowering anxiety and fear and hesitation is as much important as being more persuasive in your content, in your images, in your visuals, because you want to try to lower them as much as possible. You know, a lot of people that even buy, they still have anxieties. You like, even if you bought it, you still had anxieties. Have you ever heard of like the post-purchase regrets? People do have anxiety. So understanding those anxieties, it's absolutely super critical for improving the conversion rate overall.
Yeah, and really the purpose of that idea is that, especially when people like just it's like, you know, I like to use a retail store analogy. Imagine if you had a retail store and you have a, you know, because actually this is how I got started with this whole journey 20 years ago. But the point is that you're in a retail store and you see through the video recording. Look at the video recording analogy, right? You see a customer that walks up to an aisle, and then in the aisle they pick up a bottle. Let's say I'm looking at this cup. I pick up the cup and I kind of look at the cup like this, and I'm kind of looking like this. Then I put the cup back down and I walk away, and I come back and I pick the cup again and I look at it again. So, Lorenzo, I'm going to ask you a question. What do you think is happening here?
Yeah, I have some doubts about the cup of coffee.
It's simple. I mean, if there is no other explanation for it. So if I had software that could prompt a sales associate to like come up to me at this point, like, you know, then that's
how can I help?
Yeah, how can I help? So we're trying to follow that same principle using click tracking and, you know, mouse movements on an e-commerce page. I just don't see, maybe this happens and I don't know it, but I just don't think we do enough of this kind of like anxiety identification, you know?
100%. Yeah, this is similar to a recommendation I gave to another episode, to have, as soon as a person is on the cancellation page of a subscription business, e-commerce, you know, prompt them with the live chat, or maybe like they're clicking on canceling, prompt them with a live chat messaging, seeing if there's any way that the person, you know, the company can help them.
And it's a really good point, Lorenzo. And I remember that, and I forget now what episode that was, but I know that I remember this recommendation. I really liked it. But the point here is that this is another thing I'll just mention is that don't try, this is a mistake that marketers make, is that once they understand like, oh, we can do tracking for these behavior types, now they want to tracking for all behavior types, and don't do that. It can very quickly get very, very complicated and very, very messy. Focus in on the most important behavior type. So Lorenzo's point about someone who's trying to cancel subscription, that's a very important behavior type. So having chat there totally makes sense. If someone is spending 7 minutes on your website and they're moving around, I'm not talking about 7 minutes passive, I'm talking about 7 minutes and they're moving up and down, they're clicking on stuff, that we know two things about this person. Number one is that they already seen the price point. So they can afford the price point, but that they also have anxiety. So maybe you can go after them. Again, this is a strategic decision. You have to figure it out yourself, but it's an important touch point. So that is our episode.
Cool. All right, guys. Thank you for watching this one.
Thanks, guys. Talk to you soon again. Bye-bye.
Ciao.